Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giravardhari Yashodanandana Vrajadanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Paribrajakacarya Stottarashata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Are there any lozenges over there? I could use a lozenge. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by Srila Prabhupada. Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. Today's text number 63. Oh, here. Better drop it in my mouth. And
this was a deficient one.
Tameka Adya Purusha Supta Shaktis. Purusha Supta Shaktis. Taya Rajak Sattvatamo Vibhidyate. Mahanaham Kang Marudak Nivardhara. Yo Bhutagana Idang Yataha. Tvameka Adya Purusha Supta Shaktis. Tvameka Adya Purusha Supta Shaktis. Taya Rajak Sattvatamo Vibhidyate. Mahanaham Kang Marudak Nidhar Vardara. Sarashayo Bhutagana Idang Yata. Tvameka Adya Purusha Supta Shaktis. Taya Rajak Sattvatamo Vibhidyate. Mahanaham Kham Marudagni Vardhara Sarashayo Bhutagana Idang Yatha Bolo Shameka Adya Purusha Supta Shaktis Rajaksa Katamo Vibhidyate
Mahagaham Kham Marul Agni Bhartaraha
Surashaya Bhutagana Idam Yata Ameka Sutta Shaktis Aya Raja Sattva Tamo Vividyate Mahan Ahakam Marud Agni Vardaraha Surashaya Bhutagana Idam Yata
Eka Aja Purusha Sutta Shaktis Aya Raja Sattva Tamo Vidyate Mahanaha Kam Karu Agni Vardaraha Shaya Bhutagana Idam Yataha
Swamekadya Purusha Sutta Shakti Kaya Raja Sattva Tamo Vividyate Mahanaham Kam Marudagni Vardara Surashayo Bhutagana Idam Yata
Amekadya Purusha Sutta Shaktis Saya Raja Sattva Tamo Vidyate Mahanaham Kam Marudagni Vardara Shaya Bhutagana Idam Yataha
Word for word. Tvam, your lordship. Ekaha, one. Adyaha, the original. Purushaha, person. Supta, dormant. Shaktihi, energy. Chaya, by which. Rajaha, the passion energy. Sattva, goodness. Tamaha, ignorance. Vibhidyate, is diversified. Mahan, the total material energy. Aham, egotism. Kam, the sky. Marut, the air. Agni, fire. Vaha, water. Daraha, earth. Surarishyaha, the demigods and the great sages. Bhutaganaha, the living entities. Idam, all this. Yataha, from whom. Srila Prabhupada's translation, my dear Lord, you are the only supreme person, the cause of all causes. Before the creation of this material world, your material energy remains in a dormant condition. When your material energy is agitated, the three qualities namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, act. And as a result, the total material energy, egotism, ether, air, fire, water, earth, and all the various demigods and saintly persons becomes manifest. Thus the material world is created. Please repeat, my dear Lord.
My dear Lord,
You are the only supreme person.
You are the only supreme person,
The cause of all causes.
the cause of all causes.
Before the creation of this material world,
Before the creation of this material world,
your material energy remains
your material energy remains
in a dormant condition.
in dormant condition.
When your material energy is agitated,
When your material energy is agitated,
the three qualities,
the three qualities,
namely goodness, passion, and ignorance,
namely goodness, passion, and ignorance,
act, and as a result of the total material energy,
act, and as a result of the total material energy,
egotism, ether, air, fire,
egotism, ether, air, fire,
water, earth, and all the various demigods and saintly persons.
water, earth, and all the various demigods and saintly persons,
What did I say? Water. Oh, that's right. Okay. Becomes manifest.
becomes manifest.
Thus the material world is created.
Thus the material world is created.
Srila Prabhupada's purport. If the whole creation is one, that is, nothing but the Supreme Lord or Vishnu, then why do the expert transcendentalists make such categories as are found in the above verse? Why do learned and expert scholars distinguish between matter and spirit? In answer to these questions, Lord Shiva says that spirit and matter are not creations of various philosophers, but are manifested by Lord Vishnu, as described in this verse. Pameka adya purushaha. Spiritual and material categories are made possible by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But actually, there are no such distinctions for the living entities who are eternally engaged in the service of the Lord. There is only a material world for those who want to imitate the Lord and become enjoyers. Indeed, the material world is nothing but forgetfulness of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the creator of everything. The distinction between matter and spirit is created by the sleeping energy of the Lord. I love that, the sleeping energy. When the Lord wants to give some facility to those living entities who want to imitate the Lord in his enjoyment, it is only for them that this material world is created by the dormant energy of the Lord. For instance, sometimes children want to imitate their mother and cook in the kitchen. And at such a time, the mother supplies them with some toys so that the children can imitate her cooking. Similarly, when some of the living entities want to imitate the activities of the Lord, imitation is created for them by the Lord. It's like the whole world is like a big toy, right? The material creation is therefore caused by the Lord through his material energy. It is by the glance of the Lord that the material energy is activated. At that time, the three material qualities are set into motion, and the material energy is manifested first in the form of the Mahatattva, then egotism, then ether, then air, fire, water, and earth. After the creation, the living entities are impregnated in the cosmic manifestation, and they emerge as Lord Brahma and the seven great rishis, then as different demigods, from the animals, trees, birds, beasts, and everything else. This is real understanding of evolution, how the Lord unravels things. The original cause, however, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as verified herein. Tameka adyak purushaha. This is also confirmed in Brahma Samhita 5.1. Ishvarat Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Those who are covered by the material energy cannot understand the origin of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is summarized in the Vedanta aphorism Janma Yasya Yataha, Vedanta Sutra 112. Krishna also confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 10:8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Quote, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Unquote. When Krishna says that he is the origin of everything, aham sarvasya prabhavaha, he means that he is even the source of Lord Shiva, the Purusha avatars, the material manifestation, and all the living entities within the material world. Actually, the prabhava, creation, only refers to this material world. For since the spiritual world is eternally existing, there is no question of creation. In the Chatushloki of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord says, Aham eva sameva gre, quote, I was existing in the beginning before the creation. Bhagavatam 2.9.33. In the Vedas, it is also said, Eko Narayana Asit, quote, before the creation there was only Narayan. This is also confirmed by Shankaracharya, Narayana Paravyaktat, quote, Narayan is transcendental to the creation. That's in Shankara's Gita Bhashya. Since all the activities of Narayan are spiritual, when Narayan said, let there be creation, that creation was all spiritual. The quote, material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayan is the original cause. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master is kindly opening my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, I think I need another lozenge. One more. So we're on a part of Lord Shiva's prayers. We're coming, I think they ended 73, thanks. This is 63, so we've got about 10 more prayers before we get into the wrap-up. Shruti Fo, the result of hearing all this, which is pretty astounding. So, starting with text 60, that was when Kirtan gave class, Kirtan Yagya. We started to talk about the Lord and the material creation. This is what she was focusing on. And specifically in today's verse, Lord Shiva was talking about how the Lord is present everywhere through his energies. Haribol, thanks for coming. And what do I have here? So the division of, this is as Prabhupada pointed out in the purport, the division of Krishna's energy into categories, like matter and spirit, these aren't artificially imposed on the, quote, oneness of existence. And this is the Mayavad idea that it's all one, and why are we making differentiation? What's all this talk about categories? It's all one. But rather, as Prabhupada's purport explains, Krishna's various energies they're Krishna's creations, reciprocating our desires. So, because we have unlimited desires, when we come to the material world, there's different categories of energies to fulfill those desires. I'm just going to read again this part of the purport where Prabhupada says, there is all, and I know Lalita also said something like this in her class, that she likes that. What is it that you like it that the material world is only there because of forgetfulness of Krishna? So Prabhupada says, there is only a material world for those who want to imitate the Lord and become enjoyers. Yeah. So as soon as there's a desire for some kind of separately become an independent, Krishna manifests the material creation. Indeed, the material world is nothing but forgetfulness of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the creator of everything. The distinction between matter and spirit is created by here it is again, the sleeping energy of the Lord. When the Lord wants to give some facility to those living entities who want to imitate the Lord in his enjoyment. So we're dreaming, we're having fun. We're dreaming we can be independent of Krishna. So that's another way of talking about illusion. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya says, Jeev Jaga, wake up. This is a nightmare. This is not the reality. We're all Jeev Krishna Das Evishvash Karle to our Dukonai. We're all servants of Krishna here. And this nightmare, like Prabhupada said in the purport, when the little kids, they want to imitate the mother, and she might give them some toys to pretend they're cooking. So this is what we do. We're pretending in our various ways. We all have different desires, but basically trying to enjoy separate from Krishna, that we can have fun here. But then ultimately, it's not fun because everything's destroyed by time. Yeah. So, pure devotees live beyond the distinctions of matter and spirit because they're always with Krishna, seeing him as the cause of all causes. So there's really anything material for devotees because we see that everything is actually Krishna's energy and it can be used in his service. So my godbrother Nanda Kishore. Anybody know Nanda Kishore? I guess you don't know him.
No.
Yeah, he passed away not long ago in Alachua, actually. And so he was an actor. Yeah. Anyway, so he was he first came in contact with Srila Prabhupada by seeing Prabhupada on TV, on a TV show called the Alan Burke Show. Anybody? I guess I'm dating myself. No one remembers that. This is in the 60s. Alan Burke was a guy with a kind of a devilish Mephistophelian beard, a little goatee, And he used to like to invite people on the show to roast them. He just used to roast them. He would invite them to, make their presentation, something offbeat or interesting, So, and then he would just pick them apart, and then everybody in the audience would laugh with Burke at the people that he was roasting. It was crazy. So anyway, so somehow, this is in 1967, and by then the devotees had started at ISKCON in 1966 in New York City. And so the devotees were invited, Alan Burke invited Prabhupada to come on his show, because he was something exotic, something different. And the idea was that here's this funny-looking, Swami and his funny-looking followers and shaved heads and robes and funny marks on the head. So Alan Burke started asking him questions, but then Alan Burke saw that the answers that the Swami was giving to his questions were actually very deep, even though he looked different. And so Alan Burke just sort of shut up and let Swami speak. So, but one thing that Burke did say, this is an example of how he was trying to catch the Swami in a contradiction or make him look foolish. I see you're wearing a watch. Why are you wearing a watch? Prabhupada said, to tell time. It's so practical, right? And then I see you came here in a car, and you say you're against materialism, but why are you using a car? And so this is where my godbrother, he was just a guy in the TV audience, and then he said, actually, if you use your car for Krishna, it becomes. And so, okay. And so, I don't know his name, but anyway, he said, so I started thinking, wow, a spiritual car. If you can use anything you use for Krishna, but his idea of spiritual was something that it becomes like some mystic airship or who knows?
Fly around.
Yeah, fly around or anything. So, but that's what caught his ear. So that's the whole idea in Krishna consciousness. That anything we use, it's Krishna's energy. The same energy that binds us, it can liberate us if we use it for him. Our minds, our bodies, our desires, they can all be used in Krishna's service. Now, purport to establish Krishna as a source of all. Prabhupada cites the Gita. It's interesting. Prabhupada quotes two Chaturshloki verses, one Chaturshloki Gita verse and Chaturshloki Bhagavatam verse. So he quotes Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, and then he quotes Ahameva Sameva Agre, which basically means the same thing. Krishna is saying to Arjuna in the Gita, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. And in the Bhagavatam, Krishna is saying to Brahma, I am the source of everything. Now, we're doing this whole verse in purport. It reminds me of one verse we're chanting every morning. Who remembers the verses we're chanting in the Gita every morning? Nachamatstani. It's 5. It's 5 and 6 now. Nachamatstani bhutani pashyame yogamaishvaram bhuta brinnacha bhuta stoma matma bhuta bhavanaha. And yet everything that is created is just like a chinchilla. He just had finished saying that, and then he says, everything that is created does not rest in me. By maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I'm not a part of this cosmic manifestation. Huh? I thought you were in everything. For myself is the very source of creation. That's the trick. Or as Prabhupada would say, the sun is diffusing so much heat and light, but it's not diminished. So just because Krishna, he manifests by his energy so many things and so many categories of energy, he's aloof from it. Who knows an Upanishad verse which says the same thing? The implication. The personality of God is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. And because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, like so much sun's coming from, sun rays, sunshine, he remains the complete balance. Or as Prabhupada would say, spiritual arithmetic means 1 + 1 = 1 and 1 - 1 = 1. You can't add anything to Krishna and you can't subtract anything from Krishna. He's the complete balance. So this is, let's look at how Prabhupada puts it in the report. Or the Lord says that everything is resting on him. Matstani sarvabhutani. This should not be misunderstood. The Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and sustenance of this manifestation. That doesn't mean he doesn't care, just that he does it by his energies. He's so powerful. Or Prabhupada would say, a rich man, by his energy, there's so many factories, he has so many, or what Elon Musk, now he's going to all the Trump rallies, but actually his rockets are going off from Texas, and then they just caught one, back. And he's still making cars, he's still talking to the Chinese about how he's going to make some more cars in China. But he's doing his own thing. It's just he has so many, by his money and his energies, he's doing so many other things too. And then Prabhupada gives the example. This is such an example. Sometimes we see a picture of Atlas, and Prabhupada got this when he saw, and it was either National Geographic or Scientific American, see this in India. And he saw a picture of Atlas holding the globe. Sometimes we see a picture of Atlas holding the globe on his shoulders. So it's like, this is what people might think, oh, God is sustaining. He must be so heavy, for him. He seems to be very tired, holding this great earthly planet. Such an image should not be entertained in connection with Krishna's upholding this created universe. He says that although everything, he is aloof. He's in Goloka, he's dancing with the gopis, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, but he's also doing all this by his energies. The planetary systems are floating in space. And this space is the energy of the Supreme Lord. Sometimes it's ether, it's the same space. But he is different from space. He is differently situated. Therefore, the Lord says, quote, although they are situated on my inconceivable energy as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am aloof from them. This is the inconceivable opulence of the Lord. Let's see. Okay. There's more, but this is why, people, it's very attractive, or it's because it's inconceivable that a person can have that much potency to manifest all this and be aloof and everything like that. They say the absolute truth cannot be a person. So in that connection, I would like to share with you a little preview of what I'm contribute. And it's on November 17th, Sunday, and it's on connection with impersonalism. We're going to show through 10 songs that Mr. Mark William, right over there by the doors, and I will introduce them. I'm the introducer. And these 10 songs mark different stages in George's musical and spiritual evolution. Very interesting. Starting with, well, I won't tell you the whole thing, but anyway, the song I want to focus on is Within You, Without You, of Sgt. Pepper. So, due to George, in 1965, when the Beatles were making their second movie, Help, George somehow noticed on the set there was a sitar, and he immediately became fascinated with it. And he started plucking it, and it made this, mystical sitar sound. And then he started incorporating. He started just fooling around with it, and he started incorporating it on a couple of songs off Rubber Soul, Norwegian Wood, and then off Revolver, Love You Too. And then by 1967, he had become friends with Ravi Shankar, the sitar master. And also George had been reading Paramhansa Yogananda. So at this point, George, who was always interested in something more, there's something, he wasn't satisfied as a Beatle. He was so fried with the whole Beatlemania thing. And what did he say? I asked for success. I never asked for fame. He did that, the fame part, So then he knew there was something behind it all. He didn't know what it was. And then through Ravi Shankar's sitar music and through the Indian spirituality that he was reading, he began to get an idea of the oneness of everything. So in that song, you may remember how it starts. It's pretty far out. That was the only George song on the whole Sgt. Pepper album. John and Paul asked George, would you like to do a song too? Why, sure. But now George is full of all this Indian, music and spirituality. He's ready to share something pretty deep and pretty trippy and pretty philosophical. So you might remember and it's so many Indian instruments. There's tabla, there's santur, there's sitar, there's tambura, there's violins and cellos. I mean, it's a lot east-west, like whole menagerie of sound. And if you remember how it starts, I know you do, it starts with the tabla. And then we were talking about the space between us all and the people who hide themselves behind a wall of illusion. And it's all about the illusion. Never glimpse the truth till it's far too late, right? And then at the end, he starts talking about what's the conclusion of all this. He's a Brahmavadi at this point. Because of his association with Paramhansa and Yogananda and Ravi Shankar, he hasn't been introduced to Bhagavan realization, but he's into Brahman. There's something behind it all. And the time will come when you'll see we're all one and life flows on within you and without you. Perfect for the Summer of Love, 1967, psychedelic hippie ethos, and perfect for introduce something mystical and deep. And it was the longest cut on the whole album too. It was over 5 minutes. Yeah. So, and then of course, we're going to show after that what happens in 68 and 69. And then as George, he meets the devotees and how he goes from Brahman to Bhagavan. So don't miss this tribute. It's going to be a real cool concert. And we're going to start it by saying, we haven't done this since 2019 because then the pandemic hit and we were out of commission. And now, a lot of us are a little worse for the wear. So we're taking help from Mark William. So I'm going to introduce each song as a step. Now, I want to share with you something else too. One more thing. It is a little tidbit. I think I might have shared this at breakfast about from my Europe trip. So I think one morning I did tell some of you that I met a lady named Maria in Zuider Park in Rotterdam. So Zuider Park is this very nice, you love this, Damodar, very well manicured park. It's around a river and they have footbridges, not rivers, they're what do they call them? It's Holland. So what do they have? They have dikes and they have canals. Yeah. So they have all these canals. And so it's all over the place, So anyway, and then they have nice benches, So when it was sunny, then I'd go out. Sometimes it wasn't sunny. I'd go out and then I'd sit in these benches were set into the hedges, like and very nicely manicured, and then you could look out over the canal and chant and the sun be rising. It was very picturesque. All these energies of Krishna you could appreciate. And so people would, just cycle by or walk by, because it was a big thing in the morning. Everybody would go to these walkways around these canals. And all of a sudden, I was chanting on this bench, and then I heard this lady, I just heard a voice. It was a lady's voice. She said, Hare Krishna. I looked up. I said, oh, Hare Krishna. How do you know Hare Krishna? And so she said, I used to be like you. I used to be one of you. So I said, oh, what do you mean? I used to be one of you. I said, well, I used to chant Hare Krishna, and I was living with devotees, but she was never in ISKCON. She joined in the 80s. She joined with the Gaudiya Math during the Zonal Acharya era, big bad Zonal Acharya era. So anyway, so that's interesting. She had a little dog with her, and so she started telling me her story, and I said, and then she had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend wasn't into it, but she was. So anyway, she was chanting Hare Krishna, and then the boyfriend had enough, and she had to make up her mind: am I going to choose the boyfriend or Krishna? So she chose the boyfriend, because it was obvious talking to this lady that she was very sweet and very nice, but she didn't have much understanding of anything. It was just sort of sentimental. And then the boyfriend had taken her to the Philippines, and then it was in the Philippines that she met a priest. There's a lot of Catholicism in the Philippines, and then the priest was talking to her, and she was still chanting Hare Krishna, but the priest convinced her that she needed to be saved by Jesus. So she thought, well, I'm really sinful. I really need saving. I guess she was sort of a sentimental devotee, but she wasn't following principles, Maybe she was guilty about just being intimate with her boyfriend and not, anyway. So she was saved. And then she said, and now, she was telling me after she told me all this, and now I don't even believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in reincarnation anymore. I said, what? How is that? It just means changes of body. What do you mean you don't believe in reincarnation? Well, that's what you think. I said, no, it's not that only, Krishna devotees believe in it, but it's just you're not changing. You're a Christian now, right? Yes, I'm saved by Jesus. So Christians aren't changing their bodies. Hindus are, Muslims. It's just a fact of nature. Well, I don't want to talk about it because then we'll start fighting. And then I got back to, I said, okay, we'll have a great life, Maria. See you sometime. Maybe we'll all meet in heaven, right? So I just said heaven. And your dog will be there, right? And so then I got back to Lalita Sundari. Her name was Lalita Sundari, and Vijaya Mataji, her mother. They were living in this townhouse. They were hosting me. That's where I was staying in Rotterdam. And so I said, oh, ladies, you got to hear about this lady I met. Was somebody chanting Hare Krishna? They said, really? Was her name Maria? They know her. They got a summer place also where she had, anyway, she's an old story to them. But it was a good example of maybe we're not so attracted to philosophical verses and purports about energies and this, but this is the science of Godhead. And we really have to understand this stuff, how Krishna really is all-pervading and aloof, and how there's really nothing material because everything's coming from him. And so if we want to stick by our intelligence, then we really need to understand these things. Otherwise, just the chanting and the prasadam, that's nice, but it won't actually keep us when the going gets rough. So the going got rough for Maria, and she chose her boyfriend, and then she chose this guy who, she chose Jesus. So, so I'm going to read the verse again if you have any questions or comments. My dear Lord, you are the only supreme person, the cause of all causes. Before the creation of this material world, your material energy remains in a dormant condition, sleeping. When your material energy is agitated, the three qualities, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, act. And as a result, the total material energy, and then Prabhupada said this too, this is not in the, oh no, it is a little bit. Water, earth, and all the various demigods and the saintly persons, dash, becomes manifest. Thus, the material world is created. Kirtaneshwara Prabhu.
It's actually, we hear this many times in Prabhupada's purports that there's no material world, everything's spiritual because everything can be used for Krishna. Yet we also hear the distinction between the activities and the quality of matter in the spiritual world versus the quality of matter in the material world. Like in the spiritual world, there's no age. He's eternally fresh and youthful. Yet at the same time, we hear that, the pure devotee's body is also spiritual, but yet we see that it is aging and it is passing away. Or we hear that prasadam is spiritual, yet we also see that prasadam apparently seems to go bad. So I was wondering if you can kind of rectify that for me.
Mm. Yeah, what's the example Prabhupada would always use about the iron rod and the fire? So, yeah, Prabhupada, I think the best example is Srila Prabhupada. Can I just keep raising this? Prabhupada in his last year with us, his body was deteriorated. But it was Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikilas jivan muktak sa uchate. That Iha yasya harer dasye, if we're in this world, but, okay, we're in the material world, we can't deny it. We don't say it's just all in illusion. We say it's illusory in the sense that it's temporary, but it's a real energy of Krishna's too. Karmana manasa gira. But if by our body, mind, and words we're serving Krishna, we're liberated people. So Prabhupada, he was deteriorating physically, but then still, I mean, when you're I don't know about you, but when I'm just even a little sick, it affects my consciousness. I can't think, like I usually do. I can't, my desire is just, I get absorbed in my body. But Prabhupada, with almost no body left, what is he doing on his disappearance bed? He's dictating crystal clear purports that are so amazing. And we didn't realize how amazing. And we were receiving 10:13, the last chapter he translated, Brahma Vimohana Lila. And we didn't know really how bad it was. We were all kind of in denial, and we couldn't imagine Prabhupada leaving. So we just, surely we couldn't imagine him not leading the Hare Krishna movement physically, as well as, spiritually. So then we got the chapter after he passed away. Oh my God, Prabhupada dictated this when he was on his disappearance bed. And it's so sophisticated purport. Prabhupada is, he can barely talk. You've seen the movie, right? He's, Jayadwara Brahmachari at the time has to hold up the microphone to Prabhupada's lips, and then and Prabhupada speaking very slowly, and then the words he's speaking so slowly and faintly, they put on the title, on the subtitle, right? Because it's the Final Lesson movie. The Final Lesson. So, but what he's saying is so amazing, very scientific, very sophisticated, even joking, talking about four-headed scientists. They think they can, be like Brahma, four-headed scientists. So what's the question again?
Question is we see that spiritual matter and material matter are the same thing.
Yeah.
Prabhupada says that many times, but we also hear in the spiritual world that even the tables are conscious. And so, and they don't pass away, and that Krishna's body is now the yogana, and all the entities in the spiritual world don't age or have any change, whereas in the material world you see that things that we call spiritual, like pure devotee or prasadam, they do deteriorate. Materially.
Yeah, externally.
So is there still a difference between that spiritual world and this world?
Yeah, there is. There's Golok, Vrindavan, and Gokul. Spiritual world, there's no demons. When Krishna wants to fight, he comes here to fight. And he has these whole Leela, with Jai and Vijay and Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu. So there's a oneness and a difference. Yeah. So it's, or like, listen to this one. I was just watching this devotee, Ravi. I never met this fellow, but he's a Brit. And anyway, I never met him. I'd like to meet him. He's still alive, I think. And so he was on a morning walk with Prabhupada and some Bhaktivedanta Institute people. And Swarup Damodar, who became Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, was talking about material and spiritual energies. This material energy, my separated material. And then but then there's a spiritual energy. Aparayam, yeah. So Prabhupada said, actually there's nothing material. And then Swarup Damodar says, but Srila Prabhupada, stones, they're matter. And so Prabhupada said, no. There's consciousness. There's consciousness everywhere. Simply they're least. And so Prabhupada said, for example, they go through different changes, the 6 symptoms of life. And then they pass away. And so if what you see as a stone used to actually be a body for a spirit soul. But now that soul has left the body, so you see dead stone. And it is material energy. But so you should see everything as Krishna's energies, or just like you're in that body, and then you'll pass away, you'll leave the body, and then the body will, worm, stool, or ashes. It'll have different destinations within the total reservoir of material energy. So, it's the so that now Prabhupada says, let's see, at the very end again. Yes, the material only exists for those who have forgotten that Narayan is the original cause. So we can use it all for Krishna, and that's how it's spiritual. But there are different categories of energy that are created. The Mayavadis say, no, it's all just an illusion. It's all illusion. And Prabhupada says, no, it's real, but it's temporary. So some energies Krishna uses to facilitate our material desires, and then as those desires change, he outfits us with another body, depending on how the desires evolve over time. Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
You mentioned the Alan Burke show at
Yeah.
the beginning of class.
You remember that?
He ended up moving to Denver doing the same type of
Alan Burke?
controversial. Alan Burke.
He did, huh? Okay.
This controversial show. And in the late 80s, 88, 89, he apparently made a lot of enemies because he was shot and killed early one morning in his front yard.
Wow.
As his execution style.
Ooh.
And it's still an open case. They still don't know who did it. But I remember it well because I lived half a block
From him.
From him. So,
That's
that was
too
big
much.
news at the time. And then found him.
Oh, what goes around comes around. He was frying a lot of people, and he got fried. Yeah, we don't want to end up like Alan Burke. Okay, anything else? Did you have a question? No? Okay. That person, what's for breakfast? That's the question. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.